Yo, 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 what's going on? This is the NRW, where nerds rule the world. It's your boy, Kuya P, aka patrick.strange, the Adobro, the Babinka boy, the leader of the Hala Hala homies in the Cine gang of the ShoPowSho. And as of this recording, this is our first episode in 2022. You're not going to see this episode until February because we're generally a month ahead, but I'm super excited for this King Kong sized edition of ShoPowSho because we kind of got King Kong coming your way today. Before I get to our special guests, I just want to send a shout out to the amazing Ates who couldn't be here on our first recording of the year. As you know, Tina is Stuffy Spa holding it down with that business, putting smiles by bringing back to life your favorite cherished dolls, if you will. And we have Kat over in Japan, teaching, doing her thing, trying to make those schedules work, but we'll have them back. And so Tina and Kat, all the love to the amazing Ates. But today, I'm super excited. We have literally King Kong coming in here. He's in King Kong proportions with the rest of his career that we're going to learn all about. I'm also excited to find out that he's a little bit of a nerd, just like your boy. So let's just go ahead and bring him in. I'm going to shoot off the air horns. Please welcome Jon Hoche. And actually, I hope I just didn't brutalize his name. Jon, you can unmute. I hope I didn't brutalize his last name. I should have asked you to make sure I was right. But please welcome Jon.
Hello. No, I think you got it right. It's Jon Hoche, like with
Hoche,
like Hoche
Jon.
Ocean kind of thing.
Awesome, Jon Hoche. I think I got it right.
Yeah,
I'll do that to
totally.
do the playback.
Yeah, it's all good. Yeah.
Well, welcome, Salama Po. Thank you for coming through, man. Fellow Kabayan, killing it on the stage. One of my biggest fears, I'm an actor myself. I've only done a little bit of theater, but those theater actors that I've worked with, that I've produced and hired, I give you nothing but props because it's constant, rehearsals and that time commitment that you guys really had to, there's no retakes when you're as a film guy, there you're on the stage, you got to do it. You got to know your lines. You got to know where you need to be on the stage. Just amazing. So props to you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Welcome aboard here.
Dude, thank you for, I'm so honored to be the first show of the new year. That's amazing. Thank you so much.
Definitely, man. You're King Kong, bro. And I can't wait to hear more about that. I'm a huge kid, as if you couldn't tell, I'm a King Kong nerd. I'm a good Godzilla guy. I'm a straight up pop culture guy. So
yeah, totally. Me too. Like we're one and the same, I think.
Awesome.
I've been mesmerized by your back wall of like the all the Marvel stuff you have going on back there. And then are those, or what are those aren't Marvel Legends. Those are, what are those?
Yes, they are Marvel. The Marvel Universe figures.
Right. So those are the three.
I do have a ton of Marvel Legends though.
Okay. So those are the 3/4 inch figures.
Yes.
Okay. I'm more of a 112 guy.
Okay.
So I do like the Marvel Legends, Star Wars Black figures,
I have a ton. I just they're in boxes. I have a ton of toys, and actually 2022 goals is actually to liquidate a lot of this because I actually have a ton of original artwork that I'd rather kind of display, and I think it's more grown. Well, I'm not going to disrespect myself by saying,
yeah, come on now,
grown, you know what I'm saying? Because I still am going to keep a lot of my toys. Don't get it twisted.
Yeah,
but the 3 3/4 inch I'm going to get rid of. And I'd rather put up some of those Marvel Legends, the 1/12 scale, and yeah, just kind of bring it down. There's a lot that I'm sure another collector would love and enjoy to have in their collection. So I'm gonna make some space.
Now, do you keep your Marvel Legends on card like that, or do you take them out to let them breathe?
I only have they're mostly on card. I haven't let them breathe. Yeah, I got some, and I got some pretty money ones. Let me tell you. I have to hit you up offline if you're interested. But I do have some that I cracked open that I had to break the seal, let it breathe.
Yeah.
And kind of do some like action figure photography with a little bit.
Dude, I dabble in that too, man.
Yes.
Well, we might as well start, like, just to get off the bat there. I don't know if you've seen on my Instagram, I actually do have action figure Jon.
Stop playing. I love that.
So this is a custom action figure head that my friend, who's an artist, made for me. Put it on a buck, and then have some I'm really big into like making dioramas and stuff for action figures and all that stuff. And
okay.
Yeah. And like 2022 for me is like, hopefully I'll have a little more space, and like I really want to actually get into like more action figure photography, because I have a whole bunch of action figures like in like Rubbermaid bins, and I'm like, I would just want to take pictures of you and enjoy them and stuff. So
you know what, I've been thinking about that too, to be honest with you, like,
yeah,
because I do dabble with the photography and I have other friends, and so we're gonna have to keep in touch with that. I want to see how that develops, because I've been contemplating that myself. Like, I could sell them, but at the same time, I should just keep them, because also some of the, you know, they're on card, they're in the plastic, but some like, especially like the Marvel Legends ones, I have like a Luke Cage where the sticker art is peeling on the piece, and you know, to resell that, they want it to still be mints on that,
right?
Even though it's in the packaging. But you know, they want it has to be pristine. You know, with all of us collectors, we're geeks like that, right?
Right.
So I might as well just let it breathe, crack it open, and just play with it. And well, in regards to, you know, taking pictures, but, you know,
I mean, if you just want to play with it too, it's fine. Yeah.
Anyway, I could nerd out with you forever, John, and we'll have to maybe do another follow up where we just talk about nerd stuff.
Yeah, totally.
Today I want to celebrate you, brother, because ShoPowSho is all about showing love and light, and just showcasing amazing Filipinos like yourselves in various fields of industry, and learning what you learned along the way to those that, you know, may be aspiring to do what you've done. So let's bring it back to the beginning. Since I don't have the Ates with me, I'm going to take you through kind of like our step-by-step, you know, a little bit throwback of your life. And you've seen the show, so you kind of know what it's about. So we like to play off of that question that I'm sure you've heard, and I think we all get it, especially those of us of color, is, you know, when you're in a new place, and amongst, well, really, I would say, I want to say white people, but then it's not really always white people all the time, you know?
It's true, yeah.
Where are you from, you know? So tell us, take us back to, you know, where did it all start for you, John? Initially born, raised, all of that. Let's go back all the way to the beginning.
Yeah, well, it's funny too, because you get that question like, where you're from, and you're like, oh, I'm from New Jersey, and they're like,
right?
Oh wait, no, wait, then where are your parents from? You know what I mean? Which is kind of, you know, because you know, that's kind of how people want to just ask you, what are you? But like I said, like I was born and raised in New Jersey. I'm an East Coast guy, my entire life. But my mom was born in the Philippines, so I'm first generation American. I'm very proud to be first generation American. And my mom was she was born in Iloilo, and she came over in like the late 60s. She was in nursing school, and you know, she was the oldest of 7. And my grandma was like, you need to go to America and be a nurse and help us out. So she came over here, and she met my dad in like, she was sponsored to come over here, work at a hospital, I think in Minnesota, where she met my dad. My dad is from Germany, and so they're both immigrants. He immigrated from Germany to Canada to America. They fell in love in Minnesota, and then moved to New Jersey, where I was born. And they've been New Jerseyans ever since. They're still there now. So.
Oh, I love it. Well, welcome to the Mixed Kid Mafia, is what we like to say.
Oh, yeah.
We find out we have fellow mixed kids in here.
Nice.
Because, yeah, a lot of time, you know, and that's kind of like a big factor of the show as well, is myself and the Ates, we're all mixed kids. And, you know, we wanted to take this Filipino journey to learn a lot about our Filipino-ness as well. And I'm curious if that was also some of your struggles, but we'll get into that. And so before we take your journey even further, being born in your life and growing up in Jersey and everywhere, is I want to bring it back again to those that came before. We love to give love and light to the ancestors, and or if you know some of like your aunts, uncles, your mother, father, some of their kind of like other stories. You know, you shared a little bit what took your mother and father here as immigrants, and that's a story in itself right there, I'm sure, as immigrants. But if you know just like any other or just anything you may want to share before we dive more into yourself.
Well, my mom's father, my grandfather, he was in the military, and you know, he fought during World War II alongside with the Americans. My grandma was a teacher and a librarian, and I would always hear my grandma came over and she lived with us and she helped raise me and my older sister. And she would tell me some incredible stories about what it was like to live in the Philippines, especially during World War II, running from the Japanese. She would tell me stories about she was pregnant with my mom during World War II, and her and her husband, my grandfather, would be they'd be separated because he'd be in the jungle somewhere, and she would be trying to get to him. She'd be like fleeing the Japanese, like in the middle of the night through the rice paddies. And something that always really resonates with me, and it's something that I feel like I want to like write a play or a movie about, is the fact that she was fleeing from the Japanese, and she was hiding in the rice fields underwater, and they were shooting at her, and she couldn't get low enough, so like her stomach was the only thing protruding, aka my mom was the only thing above water. So like one stray bullet or one bullet that just went a certain direction, and I wouldn't be talking to you here today. So a lot of incredible stories about that. I have I have my sister in my life, I have my mom in my life, and my grandma were huge inspirations to me. I think they were all really strong female figures in my life. I love my grandma. Sadly, she passed away a few years ago, but I still think of her every day. And she was an incredible, selfless woman. She loved all her kids. She did everything for them. And she raised me, really to be who I am today.
Oh man, I love that. Wow. And all my respect to you and for those, but we're giving love and light to those ancestors that wouldn't be here. You wouldn't be here if not for them. And thank you for their sacrifice and just everything, man. All the love. Beautiful. And also another reason why I dabble into that is because I'm curious if some of those traits and anything or like love for the arts might have also kind of came from them as well when we get into your story. So talk to us a little bit about now a young Jon growing up, and what were you into? What would your parents tell us about you?
They would say, my parents would definitely tell me that I was like a really rambunctious kid who was always running around and screaming and had a crazy imagination and would climb trees, or had a little fake guitar and would just like bang on it and scream, "I was born in the USA," over and over again. I think there's video of that somewhere.
Were you into Springsteen?
I was just into that song, and I literally would just scream, "I was born in the USA," over and over again. Yes. I guess. But all love to Springsteen. He is the boss. Yeah. So, but yeah, I think early on, my mom loved to like kind of draw, and I kind of picked that up too. And I early on, I like loved to draw and like wanted to kind of pursue art more so, but I kind of went in a different direction with acting. She also like loved to sing, and my grandma loved to sing, and my grandma would play the piano. So there was a very musical aspect from my Filipino side of my family, and also my German side too, with my father, loving, classical music and things like that. So it was a very musical house, I think.
Oh, beautiful. I love that. So so 1 to 10, you growing up, thank you for sharing that aspects. Well, so you're part of the mixed kid mafia, which you just said. You said your German father with the classical, your mom, your Filipino mom. Tell me about being a mixed kid. 1 to 10, growing up, finding out that you were a mixed kid or not. What was that like? And did you experience, anything, as a kid early on with that aspect of yourself?
Yeah, it's still something to this day that I'm analyzing.
Yeah.
Because like at home, I feel like it was just we were who we were. Mm-hmm. And I think like both my father and my mother, I think they consciously wanted to Americanize my sister and I. So we didn't get like, we weren't like taught German. We weren't taught, well, my mom doesn't even speak Tagalog. She speaks Ilongo from where she is.
Yeah.
But we weren't taught like a dialogue of the dialect of the Philippines, because they really wanted to Americanize us. And I think it was just kind of like second nature that we were who we were at home. And then it wasn't until I think, you go out of your safe space, and then all of a sudden people start putting these titles on you, or like, these expectations or things like that. I kind of remember very vividly, like I was on the bus to first grade, and we lived in like a suburban white New Jersey area, so like everyone around me was white. And I just remember a kid, and I don't think that he meant anything by this, but he was like, "Hey John, did you know you're black?" And I was like, "What?" I don't think so. And he's like, "No, you're like, look at your skin. You don't look like us. You're black." And it was interesting because also like in white suburbia in the early 80s, it's like the Filipino population wasn't that big, I guess, or even the Asian population. So it was like black or white. And that kind of like, I'm still kind of processing that.
Yeah.
And then, it like came and went as I grew up. Depending on where I was, like people just kind of like accepted me for who I was. And then once in a while, you come into these new circles where like people need definitions and they need to define you.
Yeah.
So they're like, "Well, what are you?"
Yeah.
And, it's interesting when sometimes you don't have to do that, and sometimes you do. And I think I deal a lot with, to this day, I still deal a lot with imposter syndrome, and a lot with like not being white enough or not being Asian enough, depending on what group you're in. And especially, in the arts, as I'm sure you can attest to, it's like, it's like, well, what are you? What box can I put you in? It's like, well, I'm not going to send you out on like the white roles because you're not really white. And you're like, and then it's like, oh, but you say you're Asian. So here, let's put you up for this Chinese role or this Japanese role or things like that. Or it's like, you look dangerous because you're not white. So you're going to be a terrorist. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've been on,
brother,
reading for terrorist roles. So
all the time. Oh man, I've same path over here, brother. Same path. So as you were growing up, and then my family, just like yours, I really echo again, same path as you. Was there understanding for yourself? Did you ever get upset with your parents or that about that difference? And was there ever that conversation at all?
I don't know.
Like maybe teenage, because I'm sure like as youngsters, as like 10, 12, we didn't care. We just had the love. We were blind to it. But it was society and our peers that put those labels, like you said. So like when those labels start to occur, was there any self-hate at all and questioning with the family?
Not so much. I don't think with the family. I want to say that like I have been blessed with a pretty loving, understanding, kind of home base, and like my mother and father, they're very proud of who they are, and they never really were like, like my dad was never like, "Well, you're German," and my mom was never like, "You're Filipino." There's always a kind of like, I was this bridge that was built because they loved each other, and I think another instance growing up where like I kind of started to like kind of contemplate, I might be different, is I was actually watching, I don't know if you've ever seen this movie, Mississippi Burning.
Yes. Yeah.
It's like, I think Willem Dafoe, I think, is in it. And, it takes place in the South, and it's like a lynching that's occurred and everything like that.
Yep.
And I was sitting there watching this movie with my mom, and I was a pretty young kid. And, it's very eye-opening about the hatred that is in this world. And I remember saying to my mom, I was like, "Mom, if you and I lived during that time period, would that happen to us?" And she was like, Yeah, it would. And it was an interesting moment in my life when I was like, okay, I'm different than some of my friends. And it wasn't a bad thing or a good thing. It was just like, I guess it was more a realization that like there are bad people in the world, and and racism exists. And maybe that was my first like kind of realization that occurs.
Gotcha. I feel that. Yeah. Oh man, I'm trying to think. I think I might have watched. It's funny. Like, did I watch that? Because I remember watching it, but I might have watched it with my mom back in the day as well.
Wow. Yeah, maybe.
And I think one of the stars was like, from another show or a TV show that was in it as well. That was anyway. I'm getting lost. I'm a film head too, so it's like I'm trying to remember actors and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So what elements of the culture that outside of that? So like what elements of like Philippine culture or German culture did you pick up or fall in love with? Like, all of us talk about, as Filipinos, we love our food.
That's what I was going to say.
The dancing and community aspect of it.
100% the food. It's like that was like, like we didn't like, I didn't hear like Ilonggo or Tagalog spoken a lot unless like relatives called the house. But my grandma and my mom would always be making amazing food, like ShoPow is like one of my favorite things in the world.
Yes.
And lechon and
what's your favorite? What's your go-to? If you have a last meal dish, Filipino food dish, what would it
just
be?
Like a giant tray of like lumpia.
Okay.
I think so.
I think I OD'd on lumpia. Like
really?
Everybody all the time. And my wife makes it all. My wife is the go-to people amongst like my community of friends that they go to her and I'm wrapping lumpia with them. And yeah, they love my wife's lumpia that she learned from my mom and all of that.
Amazing.
Like I've OD'd on it.
Well, like that was, I think it was also the thing was like, it was like at least twice a week we had like chicken adobo. So, I mean, a good chicken adobo is pretty incredible too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So a tray of lumpia for you. All right. I love
it. But I've never, to this day, like I don't get down with dinuguan. I can't
really?
Do it. Yeah, I can't do it, man.
Chocolate meat.
I'm just like, it was introduced to me as like, this is blood pudding. I was like, but it's black and blood. So I'm like, I just can't get down with it. You know what?
Have you at least tried it? Have you at least sampled
No, that's the thing. I've never sampled it, but for you, this year, 2022, is going to be the year of dinuguan for me.
All right, you got to at least try it. Just
Can I put it over rice at least? And
that's what's the best. Yeah.
All right, good.
I dump a little bit of rice into it because I want more of that goodness.
Okay,
and
good.
Yes, you got to just erase the pig's blood out of your mind.
Yeah.
The vinegar kills all that. That's what. Yeah, it's amazing. Enjoy.
Fair enough. I will let you know.
If you were to ever come down DC way, I would take you to a couple spots and
nice.
Buy you a plate. I'll take care of that.
Done and done.
All right. So John, let's get into schooling now. Like we're a kid, we're growing up, we're learning about ourselves, our family, our culture. But now going to school, we're growing up, and then in schools where we'll learn about the things that we'll hopefully take into into our professional career later on. What were some of the things you're into in school leading into high school? Did some of the arts initially happen in there? Take me into some of the school years.
Yeah, like I think when I was like pre-high school, it was mostly like that's when I really loved like doodling, drawing. I was really into comic books, like it was the 90s, like, and like, I was really into X-Men and everything like that. And like, I would take like typing paper at the time because it wasn't computer paper, like fold it in half, staple it on the spine, and I'd like make comic books and like draw comic books. And that was really something I was like, oh, maybe I'll do this for a living. So I was really, really into art, like early on. And I didn't really like tap into acting or dancing or singing or anything like that. So that was kind of like, that was like my main passion. But at the same time, I was always watching TV, I was always into movies and TV and, like seeing Gene Kelly for the first time, like, was like a huge moment for me. Like as a little kid, like on like TBS or something, like Singing in the Rain was on like a loop or something, so that was huge for me. And I think that was always in the back of my head as like something, I might want to do that, but just like never had the opportunity to, I guess, or never pursued the opportunity to. And it was just kind of like, I as a young kid, I was more of like the introverted, like, I'm just going to be here and like live through these crazy anthropomorphic animal things I'm drawing and making comic books of and stuff. But
so like Battletoads, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Jumbo.
Yeah, absolutely. Like like I think Ninja Turtles was like, like one of my first obsessions. Like it was like Ghostbusters, Ninja Turtles, and then all of a sudden came like the X-Men in the 90s when like a little bit before like before it got crazy. Like I was like into like my cousin got me into like Uncanny X-Men before like Jim Lee came around and stuff like that.
Like the John Byrne stuff?
Not so much the John Byrne stuff, but like but like Claremont was writing and like Mark Silvestri was doing the inks and stuff like that. So like to geek out, it's like when the X-Men were like supposedly dead but they were really in the outback.
The Madeline Pryor days?
Yeah. Like Inferno and stuff like that, Like those are when I kind of got into comics. So
I love it. All right. So you're in school though, but you're drawing. So did you take art classes like as an elective at all?
Yeah, a little. Yeah, I did. But I was finding more joy in just kind of like reading comics and like, drawing. And I would always excel in art. Like I think to this day, like my parents in my childhood home still have some of my pre-high school art like framed on the walls and stuff like that. But
oh wow.
Yeah, but it was more or less like, like, oh, this, like, look what they're doing in this comic book. I want to, copy that and things like that. So like, early on, that was definitely a huge passion of mine.
Okay. So then how about high school? When you can kind of do a little bit more electives with not even theater or a drama class or anything in there?
Well, that's when initially, like when I was choosing electives for high school, because like I always kind of followed what my sister did, because my sister was like 4 years older than me, so she was like the one who like would do everything, and I'd be like, oh well, maybe I want to do that. Watch too. What
they do.
Yeah, exactly. So like she was in choir, she was in band, so I was like, oh well, I'll be in choir and I'll be in band, and then that kind of like took over because like there's more performing involved, and I was like in the marching band, I was in like this band and that band, and like a lot of after school bands, a lot of after school choirs, like show choir and things like that. So that's kind of when like the thespian aspect of like my passions started really. And so much so that like I was like the only boy in dance class, which was like an interesting thing in regards to like, putting on a dance belt and jazz pants in the boys' locker room and walking down the hall. It was a weird thing, because like there'd be like kids that I'd have like science class with going to gym, and they're like, what are you doing, dude? Yeah. And I was like, oh, I'm going to dance, so it was an interesting time for that as well, but it was something I loved. And it was I think there was some question, like some kids don't understand. They're just like, that's weird and that's not cool, and some other terrible words that you could say.
Oh, I'm sure. And actually, let's put a pause on that, because I'm sure that there are other kids, and as males, that are into that. I was into that, and you were into that, and you said like you're the only one, so you're trailblazing, my friend, which is beautiful. What would you say to that, to a young kid that might be watching, that is, as well experiencing that, and how that you dealt with, the criticisms, that you were getting, filtering out that noise to just stay positive and go for your own goals, regardless of what other people think?
I mean, I think you just said it perfectly. It's like the idea of filtering out the noise and just like, if you love it, do it.
Yeah.
If and if you have the opportunity to do it, like if I had the opportunity to take dance class in a public school and not have to pay, like not have to pay to do it extracurricularly, then like I took that opportunity. So if an opportunity comes, take it. If a door opens, go through it. You know what I mean? Like those are definitely the things that I would say to young males who want to do something that might not be deemed or seem like a very masculine thing to do. It's like, if you love it, then do it. And you're a male, so it's masculine. You know what I mean? In the sense,
exactly.
I guess.
Yeah.
So
I love it. No, that's awesome. I love that you were just doing it. I just, it's amazing. Because we need to be those self-starters in a way to go for our own dreams, man.
Yeah. And try everything. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to like, well, like I like, I like to act, but I've never danced before. Well, take a dance class. I've never, like, I like to dance, but I've never sung before. Well, just start singing, like, just try it. So it's like, you got to be fearless, like, I mean, I think that's if anything that comic books and professional wrestling taught me, it's you got to be fearless.
I love that. Exactly. Oh man. Cause I guess I just love it. Because there's been moments where I wasn't fearless, and I wish I would have done this out in the third. And so now I'm at that time and raising a little one who be fearless, because there's, you look back and you're like, you wish you could have done this, wish you could have done that. And I just love that spirit. All right. So you're taking those courses. Let me find out some of the inspos, the people that inspired you. You said Gene Kelly. Singing in the Rain. That's a classic. I remember Turner Classic Movies and watching Singing in the Rain. I think that I was trying to figure out the network when I was watching it along with you.
Nice.
Just who are some of the people that inspired you back at that time, in schooling and as you're learning along the way?
Well, I mean, first and foremost, I was blessed with like an incredibly large amount of like the fine arts program at Roxbury High School in the 90s in New Jersey, RHS, was incredible. And I had some incredible mentors in that program, like my band teachers, my choir teachers. My dance teacher, she actually saw me just like at a winter semi-formal just dancing. And she was like a chaperone. And then she legit like came and found me and was like, "You're really good. Do you want to maybe like be part of the dance program here?" Like, she was a go-getter, and they were all really supportive, and they were all really encouraging, and they all were just like amazing people that, I still keep in touch with to this day. They really inspired me. Obviously my parents were like a really big inspiration to me. They were always really supportive of me. Obviously my mom once in a while would always be like, "Well, don't you want to be a nurse?" But, but, like never, like they never said no. They were always like, "Well, if this is what you want to do, be the best at it and make us proud."
I love that.
But obviously, like whatever I would do, that's the thing. Like they would always be proud of me no matter what I did. It's like, even if I failed, they would be like, "Well, at least you tried, and we're proud of you for that." So I was blessed with incredibly supportive parents, supportive teachers. And then, like for me, it was like, yeah, like people like Gene Kelly, Fred Astaire. Like I loved those old movies. But again, it was really hard to find someone who looked like us, to idolize. And like, for me, it was like, like Gene Kelly has black hair and I have black hair. And I was like, oh, well, I kind of like bonded with him in that way. And then like, for example, like, I don't know if you remember the show Sidekicks, but Ernie Reyes Jr.
Yeah.
Shout out to Ernie Reyes Jr.
Yes. Trying to get him on this year.
Oh, nice. Yeah. But, with seeing him as a kid, I was like, whoa, like he's amazing. And, like I, took Taekwondo because of him and because of Ralph Macchio and the Karate Kid, and, but I guess it was really hard to find kind of people in media that like we could say, oh, that's us.
Yeah.
You know, like as a kid, like when The Rock came out, you know, as like Rocky Maivia, I was like, well, that's a brown fella. That's a mixed race brown fella.
Yeah.
You know, and like I was like, so like I really latched onto him, and I still think of him as a role model to this day, as like someone who like has hustled.
Oh yeah.
And is now the highest paid actor and businessman, like, you know, in the world. So
oh yeah. Oh man, I love all that. I love it. Same. All right. So this actually went, some of your answer just took a little bit of my lead into my next question is, so like you're getting ready to graduate. And as you said, you know, your mom kind of brought up maybe a nurse thing. What was it like? Okay, you're choosing your path to go off to school. How was that decision? Where did you go, or if you went? I'm not entirely sure. And choosing that pathway and what you'd major in and all that, and the factor of the mom, the parents, you know.
yeah, totally.
You know, engineering, nursing, the arts, really?
Well, that was the thing. Yeah, they were super supportive of me, but they never kind of were super pushy, or they were like, hey, you know, it's the middle of your junior year, you should be looking at colleges, or this or that or that. I think also because my sister was like she's a super go-getter. And like she was the one who would almost lead my parents and be like, hey, I need to go look at these colleges. So they would take her to go look at colleges. Whereas me, I'm someone who kind of like focuses on the task at hand and what's happening right in front of me. I'm not very good at like the long-term situation. So for me in high school, it was like, you know, okay, so the band, the band concerts this day, choir concerts this day, you know, like during my senior years when I started getting into like actual musicals and plays and things. So it's like, oh, well, the play is this time, this. So like I was so wrapped up in like the fine arts. I was like Mr. Fine Arts at high school that I almost forgot to apply to colleges. So it came to the point where it was like, oh, wait, oh my gosh, where'd the time go? So I started auditioning, and I auditioned, and I went to the American Musical and Dramatic Academy in New York City, which is like a conservatory. It's like a 2-year conservatory program. And it was really great to kind of to go there and kind of be in like just immersed in, you know, because it's conservatory, so it's just theater all the time, no electives or anything like that. So that was like really incredible for me. It was also really incredible to kind of be like 18 years old and like have to figure out New York City, like,
oh, wow,
you know, so I like, you know, that was really those are really some formidable years of my life, and a lot of growth. And after I graduated there, you know, it's like I had 2 years experience, and I started kind of auditioning and things like that. But I also felt like I had more to learn, you know. And at this point, you know, September 11th had occurred, and I was like, well, maybe, you know, and at that time I was living in Brooklyn, and I actually witnessed September 11th happen, like from my rooftop and everything like that. And it was, you know, really intense. And my father, you know, he worked like 2 blocks away from the World Trade Center, and I have crazy stories about that and everything. But it was kind of like, well, maybe this is a good time to kind of figure something out. So I moved back home with my parents and auditioned for the theater program at Montclair State University in New Jersey, which is a fantastic program. I recommend it to anybody who's looking for a school to go to. And I finished, I got my actual degree, my BFA in theater with a concentration in acting there. And I thought it was a really great experience. And also it was really great because I had come to that program with 2 years of training, but also 2 years of life experience, you know, living in the city. So, you know, I had a little bit of something else that some of the other kids didn't. I was 2 years older, so that was kind of interesting as well.
Yeah.
And after that, you know, after finishing that program, I kind of moved to the city and then was there ever since. So,
all right. Well, we'll get into that in a second. I want to just add notes upon that.
Yeah.
In regards to professional training, would you say or recommend that in a way if you had to do it all over again? Because, as actors, it's sometimes we're it's just being,
Mm-hmm.
but then there's also, you need that educated route sometimes, I think it's different for everybody. Would you say your, how you came to be with yourself and anything along the way that you found difficult, as you were learning the process, and figuring out yourself and technique and just letting it go? Cause it's a state of being.
Yeah, totally. I think for me, this is me personally.
Yeah.
I think that I wasn't self-motivated enough to be at a conservatory at that young of an age, especially in New York City, where there's so much to be like, oh my God, I'm in New York City. Oh wait, no, but I have to take this voice lesson and I have to practice this and I have to do this, but New York City's out there. You know what I mean? So I got a lot out of it, but I feel like if I was a little more self-motivated, I would have gotten more out of that. So for me, it also helped to go back to a university setting where it's a little bit more regimented, to really kind of hone my craft.
Yeah.
And then again, it's once you get out of school, I'm sure you can attest this, once you get out of training or whatever, that you keep what you want and you don't, and you got to drop what doesn't work for you. And then when you get into the real world, you're like, yo, those people were full of shit. And I'm not talking specifics here, but I've taken some acting for television and acting for film classes, and they kind of put the fear in you. And and it's not, and I think specifically for film and television, class settings are very different than when you're on a set and you see an actor who gets to they learn the lines for that scene that they're going to shoot all day. And then, they get to shoot someone else's coverage. So that person gets to learn their lines. And once that scene's done, they get to forget about it. You know what I mean? And that's stuff that they don't teach you in school, I think. And it's that's when it's you got to learn by doing it, and you got to learn by experiencing it. And once you, exactly. Yeah. So that's why any young person who's if they want to be a film and TV actor, I have no problem saying to them, well, you better go be an extra. And but when you're an extra, don't sit in your chair and do a crossword puzzle. Keep your eyes open.
Yes.
Keep your ears open, and just clock what everyone else is doing, and clock how those people who are first on the call sheet are coming in and doing their lines, knowing their lines and things like that. Absorb all that, and don't settle for being, and there's nothing wrong with background actors. I don't want to crap on them, but don't settle for being a background actor if you want to be more than that. So
completely agree. Elevate, learn, all of that. What are some of the elements about the craft that made you fall in love with it? I know you you love the dance, and we grew up watching stuff, but then when you're getting that professional training, did you love learning about about the character once you got a set of sides, getting cast, was it difficult learning lines, just elements of the craft within that aspect?
I think, well, first and foremost, the thing I love about especially live theater is the connection with the audience and the energy. I'm very I'm a huge proponent of the idea that theater is an energy exchange between people. And yes, it's an energy exchange between the people on stage, but I think the theater actors, or the actors who could do theater, who say the audience doesn't exist, are insane, because they're so important to the whole thing. And that's the beauty of live theater, is it's live. There are people watching you, and they're giving you this energy, and and yeah, I'm all about the energy exchange. Like when I get on stage and I can make an audience laugh, I can make them cry, I can make them hate me, like anything of that, that energy exchange is addictive. And it's something that, yeah, I'm addicted to, and that's, I think, one of the reasons why I think predominantly my career has always been in theater is because I've always been trying to kind of, you know, I'm chasing that bug, I'm like, I got to get that fix of like that, like, just like moving people and like, and being present to move them. Because like, with film and television, you get to give a performance, and then an editor and a director kind of molds it. And then in essence, an audience person is either sitting in their living room or something, or in a theater, hopefully in a theater. And actually they're watching reflections of light and sound of you. So it's not technically you in a metaphysical way. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
I don't know where I'm going with this. I'm like, I've totally lost track of time.
It's a different it's a perspective that I'm, because I'm more of the, the film TV actor.
Sure. Yeah.
And, but you're absolutely right. I'm relying on that editor because they could framework it in a different way. I was just, a lot of my friends were upset that I was a principal in Don't Look Up, but my scenes were cut. And
my God,
lines were given to Leo and J-Law.
Dude.
Exactly. And everybody's like, I was watch the film just for you. And I'm like, yeah, they changed it up.
Oh, damn, dude, that sucks.
It is what it is, though, Yeah. But at least I'm getting the Netflix residuals.
Nice.
So,
but see, yeah. I think, and I think that's like, and I don't want it to come across like I'm discrediting acting on film and television, because I think that in itself is an incredibly difficult craft to do well. Because like you have to absorb lines on the fly, they're changing them on the fly, and kind of knowing your marks and things like that. And like more recently, I've been kind of involved in like television and film, and, being able to kind of see the difference between theater and television are they're very apparent. But they're also like very rewarding in both ways. And I think that there was a time when, because of like the training I was talking about before, it's like I was almost kind of afraid of TV and film, although I would love to be like in a Star Wars or a Marvel movie.
Right. Wouldn't we all?
Yeah, exactly. But I've seen recently like the true art form that it is to be really good at acting for television and film and things like that. So
yeah, I believe, but again, like I see what you do as amazing. Like, I don't know if I could, I love that. It's, I'm trying to find the words for it, but I think there's respect both ways.
Yeah, absolutely.
A lot of respect and admiration. Cause like, I don't know if I could do what you do. So with that, in that regard, I think it happens every now and then, but fears, cause you are live, you can't correct, or you can kind of course correct, I guess, a little bit. Have you ever encountered that? What would you say to somebody that is a stage actor and dealing with that? What has been your method? Has it ever happened? I'm sure it has. It happens with stage.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Like you go up on a line, or your scene partner goes up on a line, and your next line doesn't make sense for what they said. So I think, on stage, that's the thing. It's like you have to learn it and forget it, because every night it has to be the first time you hear it. So it's a hard thing to do, in a sense that like you almost have to know like everyone else's lines and your lines cold. And then and then every night it has to be the first time you've heard it, which is exciting because you always have to be in the moment. And, that's the thing I think I love about live theater is you always get another chance at it as long as the show stays open. It's that, every night is different. The energy of the audience is different. They're going to laugh at different lines. you are going to have a different day before you get to the theater. You know, you could have a really bad day before the theater, and you don't want that totally to creep into your performance, but it's not going to totally go away, and vice versa with, you know, like your scene partners. So like, yeah, like if like there have been moments where like I've totally like forgotten like what happens next, and you just look into the eyes of your scene partner and like try to figure out a way to get back to a time that, or a place where like you remember, or vice versa. It's like, if you can see like in your scene partner's eyes, like they just said gibberish, and you're like, and then you kind of tweak your lines to help them and try to feed them and things like that. And I mean, that's the thing. I my entire career, I've been an ensemble. Like, I've always thought of myself as an ensemble member. Like, I always love working in ensembles. A lot of the theater stuff that I've done has been like new plays or new musicals, which is exciting because like you get to be there on the ground up and kind of help create them. And I'm really into like collaboration and being collaborative, which is sometimes you don't get that opportunity if you're like coming into a show that's already established, or just like kind of doing, you know, like a remake of a revival of another show. You know, you don't get that opportunity. So like, it's all about, it's like the collaborative effort and always being just present, you know. There are some folks out there who have been in the business for a long time, and they're just like, whatever, it's another paycheck, you know what I mean? Whatever. And like, I never want to be that. I never want to like just phone something in. Like, it's just like that would be a terrible feeling for me, you know.
I feel that. All right. So with that experience, then, if your scene partner were to forget something, do you have a pro tip on what you do to help get them back on track? And or do you do something to help them until they're recovered and know where to be at within the script? Or
there's a lot of like you can see a lot in the person's eyes, obviously. And then again, it's like, just like, it's important just to not know your lines, but to kind of know the lines that you need, obviously, to help your journey continue on. So like, if you need them to like tell you that it's like 12 o'clock, just, you know, be like, what time is it again? You know, like something like that, or something, you know, like just try to trigger, try to trigger their memory into like what the next line is.
No, I love that. And for those that are watching and you want to kind of a quick way to help that, you know, I think that's beautiful to help people get on track. I've been there, done that. And that's why I don't do too much. So you're out of school, you're graduated, you did your 2 years and you went back, you got your MFA. Now you're back in NYC, I believe, you know, now trying to make this even more of a professional career. All the training is done. Get me into that, finding an agent, as you know, theater wise, you know, tell me about that journey and leading me up to Broadway and everything else you've done.
It's, you know, that was one of the things I think that it starts in school. Like, you got to do good, you got to show up, you got to make an impression, and you got to make connections. And I think that was a really important thing that I did both at AMDA and both at Montclair State University. Is I made an impression on people who were not just professors, but they were directors, you know, actors themselves, like in the real world. So you got to start networking as soon as you can, and like, just be a good person and just do your work, and they'll remember you, you know? So right when I graduated, some of my professors who were also, you know, directors in New York City were like, when you graduate, let me know. And, you know, like, maybe we can work together. So that started happening. I had an incredible teacher at Montclair State named John Basil, who had a Shakespeare theater company in New York City called the American Globe Theater Company. And kind of right during my senior year of college, he used me in a production that he was doing in New York. So I got New York exposure there. And then another director that I worked with at Montclair State University, he was an artistic director of a regional theater in New Jersey. And he actually called me up out of the blue and was like, "Hey, I just was curious if you wanted to maybe work with us. We'd love you to be an understudy. We're doing a production of Dracula, and it's starring Lorenzo Lamas. So can you maybe understudy him?" And like, because it was Lorenzo Lamas, and he's kind of famous, I guess, in the sense, if he's not at rehearsals, like I would go in and I would do rehearsals for him and stuff. But I made an impression, and then they brought me back for the next show, which was like a Christmas show. And at that point, they were like, "Hey, we want to offer you your equity card," which is the actors union for stage. So they offered me my equity card, and I was able to get my equity card through them and be in the union. So it's all about just like kind of making a good impression. And then, usually people want to help you if you're, and if they're good people as well. Mm-hmm. And then from there is kind of where like my creative career really picked up, because after that, I auditioned for a downtown theater company called Vampire Cowboy Theater Company. This was about like 15 years or so ago, and hit it off with them. And we are a theater company that was like the first ever like quintessential geek theater. It was like a very pop culture, like genre mashup kind of downtown theater, avant-garde kind of things. And I really hit it off with them. And that was when I first got into puppetry, because like the first show I auditioned for them, when I got to the first rehearsal, they were like, "Hey, we decided like between you auditioning and us and you being here today that you're going to be a puppet in the first act." So I was like, okay. And being like kind of like really into like stage combat and movement and stuff like that, like I kind of really took to puppetry. So that's taken me really far in the world. So they really became like a creative home for me. And, I've worked with them, and I'm the artistic associate of them now. And our resident playwright, one of the creators of Vampire Cowboys, is a gentleman by the name of Qui Gwyn, and he actually co-wrote Raya and the Last Dragon. So he's really he's come a long way too. He's also he's written for Marvel and things like that as well. So beautiful. Yeah, and I think also one of the important things is like I'm like I was saying about like being an ensemble member and being really collaborative is like I love like the imagery of like we're all on a ship and we're all gonna go up together, like as the waves rise.
A rising tide lifts all boats.
Yeah, exactly.
That's my motto, man. I love that.
Yeah. And and I think that it's been very true in my career. Playwrights have gotten more prestigious opportunities, and they've brought me along with them and things like that. So and that's one of the things, like for example, like Lin-Manuel Miranda like uses all the same people initially, because I've heard him say, and like it was like he was really drunk on like Drunk History once, and like one of the actors called him and he's like, "If I work, you work. If I work, you work. I love you, man." And that's kind of like a beautiful philosophy to have. It's like, if your collaborators, like your success is not isolated to just you. And like, I feel like my success is because of the people that I've surrounded myself with.
I love that. Absolutely, man. I love that. That's what I'm trying to also build here with ShoPowSho. And now you're part of the ShoPowSho family, being involved in being here now. I also have a Philippine ex-actors Barkada that I'd love for you to join us whenever we get rolling on some projects that we're planning.
Amazing.
yeah, it's again like the motto of a rising tide lifts all boats. We build as a community.
Absolutely.
There we go. So I love the puppetry aspect. That was something that I noted that I'm happy you brought up. I think that's awesome. I'm a big Sesame Street guy, and
yes,
all of that. So I think that's super amazing. So before there's some other aspects and some stage stuff I want to talk about, but I pulled up your IMDb, and I told you a little bit about this earlier, because you, like you said, with your group, you've done some other pop culture, some genre type stuff. Tell me about Transformers versus G.I. Joe. Marvel heroes come in all sizes. How and how just some of this pop culture stuff that like you've done with the Cowboys, because again, you grew up on comics that you were saying, and when that kind of came all together 360, just some of those moments and how some of that stuff came about.
Yeah, well, as far as like most of that stuff that's like on IMDb, it's like again, it's like who like for example, a lot of those are like stop motion shorts and things like that, and actually my brother-in-law he's a incredible stop motion animator and stop motion director in LA. He's worked for Robot Chicken and some other incredible projects as well, and we just really love working together, and we try to work together as much as we can. And when he had these opportunities, he's like, well, do you want to like voice Iron Man? I was like, hell yeah, I want to voice Iron Man.
That's awesome.
And things like that. And as far as like the G.I. Joe and Transformers, it was like a little short, and like he was more of a He-Man guy growing up, whereas I was too, but I was really into like G.I. Joe and Transformers. So he kind of brought me in. He kind of brought me in as a consultant of like, well, Soundwave wouldn't do that, or well, I don't know if Cobra Commander would be saying that, but things like that. So yeah, it's just fun, like when you find like yourself, like when you find like people that have common interests, like you just start geeking out, and like it's the greatest thing in the world.
Can I find these on YouTube at all? I'm curious.
I think so. I mean, they might even be on my website. So
okay, cool. I want to check these out. I love it. I have a friend. You said He-Man. I have a friend who's a stop motion guy. His name's Justin Rash, who did some of the new stuff for the new He-Man toys.
Oh, cool.
Launched. Yeah, I'm curious if he knows, because he knows a lot of stop motion cats. And
it's a small yeah.
So I'm like, I wonder if he knows that guy, and that's that third. Anyway, King Kong ain't got nothing on me, or ain't got nothing on John. Tell me how that came about. As a big King Kong fan over here.
Yeah, likewise, my friend. Like I grew up on like the old black and white movie. I loved Son of King Kong growing up. Like those were movies that I watched all the time. Like King Kong, like the original King Kong versus Godzilla, like the Toho one, like I loved.
Oh yeah.
It's interesting. Like part of me wants to say like putting things out into the universe works as hard as you believe them. Cause so I was touring the country with a puppet show called Warhorse, which Steven Spielberg made a movie of after he saw the Broadway production.
I was wondering if that was one and the same when I was looking at your credits.
Yeah. It's
I was familiar with that.
Yeah. So I was touring the country with that show, and all of a sudden I see these YouTube videos of this show in Australia of this like giant King Kong puppet. And I was like, oh my God, that's got to be the next thing I do, just because I loved King Kong. So I just kind of like put that out into the universe, and it was delayed for a long time before it came to the States. And then like when I found out that they were auditioning for it, I like found out who was the movement director, and I personally emailed him and said, I worked on Warhorse and this and blah, 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 blah. He got me in an audition time. And initially, like, so there's like kind of two things so King Kong, for people who don't know, the stage production, it's a 20-foot tall marionette puppet with animatronics in it. He weighs 1.2 tons.
Wow.
And there's like this giant thing that kind of moves him around the stage. That's like 17 tons and everything. And he's a feat of engineering and special effects. And it takes like 10, oh man, it's been a long time, but I feel like it's like 10-ish people on stage, like pulling wires and things to like move his limbs. And then there are like 3 people kind of like in a booth with like animatronic controls moving his like head, his face, his shoulders and stuff. So I initially auditioned for like the people on stage, and they had seen some of my puppetry credits, and they were like, well, maybe maybe this isn't the right place for you, but we'd love for you to come back in a couple months and audition for what they were calling the voodoo puppeteers, is what they would call them, because it's kind of like voodoo magic, because they were like these like wireless controllers that would move this giant puppet around. And initially I was like, oh well, I guess that's just them being nice and saying, oh, we don't need you anymore for today. But they eventually, like months later, called me, and the audition was really interesting because I actually had to be King Kong. And as someone who is a huge motion capture fan, is a huge fan of Andy Serkis and people like Terry Notary and things, and the like, what they did with like the Planet of the Apes movies. This was like, I was like so ready for this. So like they had me literally get on all fours and act out some of the quintessential scenes as King Kong. So I was on all fours, fighting a giant cobra, fighting, airplanes, interacting with Andero in my cave and things, and like roaring and screaming and acting like a gorilla. And and then one thing led to another. And I mean, this is something I don't talk about a lot, but so initially I was cast as like the swing, which is like the person who kind of goes on if the other person gets sick. So someone else was cast as kind of the voice, and was cast to kind of move the head and neck around. Mm-hmm. And I was just happy to be a part of the production. And I kind of just like didn't get a lot of time with the puppet in essence, but was always available and always writing down notes. And they, like I said before, I showed up, I showed that I could work
professional.
Yeah. And so with King Kong on stage, one of the puppeteers, has a microphone, and it's a live voice every night, so that it's alive. There's that energy exchange still between this giant puppet and the audience, and this and Andero and things like that. And it just so happened, like the mic was there. I was at rehearsal early one day, so I just asked if I could practice. And I was just making my gorilla sounds and things like that. And I think the right people heard that, and that kind of, they had that in the back of their head that, oh, well, Jon can do this if need be.
Yeah.
Fast forward to a day before our first preview, which is like you do some previews before you open the show, so like with an audience. So like a day, I think, before a live audience, and I could be wrong by like maybe a day or 2 days before a live audience. And unfortunately, it wasn't working out with the person they had cast. They let him go 2 days before our first paying audience, and we're like, Jon, do you want this role? Because we know you can do it. Wow. And I was like, yes, I do. And I hadn't had a lot of practice with the controls, but I had memorized the choreography. I knew when to roar, when to growl, and things like that. And also the times that I was able to get on the rigs, I made the most of it. So we did a rehearsal. They felt really excited about it. And I mean, on the books, since like I made it to open, like I was the one who opened the show, like I am the original voice of King Kong on Broadway.
Amazing. Wow. I love stories like this, man.
Yeah.
I think it's so amazing. I'm sorry I fast forwarded it to King Kong because I'm such a King Kong stan.
No, dude, me too. Like, yeah.
But Warhorse, was that your first touring uh, performance? And how was that in regards to, you learned your craft, you go perform, on Broadway or just or theater around the city, right? But then to take a tour, is something different. And what was that like in that experience?
Yeah, prior to Warhorse, I was like mostly doing like downtown theater, and a couple of like regional shows, but but doing a national tour of any show is like doing Broadway just on the road. So it was like huge. It was a huge, it was a huge, very important part of my life. I loved that show. I loved the show. I loved doing the show. I would do it again if it came back. And I got to see the country, and it was amazing. And like I've been to almost all the lower 48 states, and I got to go to Canada, and I got to do the show in Tokyo. So I got to spend like a month in Tokyo.
Wow.
Yeah, and it was really, really incredible. And it's interesting though, like big shows, small shows, everything in between. It's like it's all the same. And I say that to stay humble too. But like you get the same drama, you get the same this, you get the same that. Just the audiences are bigger or smaller, but that shouldn't matter anyway. So
completely agree. I'm with you on that. Everybody wants to talk about, oh, you're in the big I was in Winter Soldier, but to me, like,
nice.
Okay, yeah, I was in Winter Soldier. I'm a Marvel fan, but there's just these other projects that to me meant a lot more. As performers, I think we know that more so than the general public. What's important to us in a way.
Yeah, and something interesting about, I think this is another thing that I think is interesting about TV and film is you as an actor can have an amazing experience on a movie, and the prep time that you get to do and things like that. And in reality, that movie may never come out. That movie may go straight to video, but that's 100%. Not really an issue. That's not really an issue right now, like, with streaming and stuff. Yeah. Or like, to be real, that movie might not be very good. Yeah. But the experience you had is the one that matters. Exactly. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
So yeah, I think it's all about the experience.
Totally. Oh man, I love very similar paths, and I just love speaking with my fellow brethren of acting and what you're doing. Amazing stuff. Any other highlights you want to have and leading now into a big thing. I'm almost forgetting, like, we're in the pandemic, and that's also what's helping us bring us together. Tell me, how's that been? Because Broadway closed, as a theater performer, this transition now, and I think that's very important. As a performer, especially as a trade, as a stage performer like yourself.
Yeah, it was crazy. I was actually doing a show at the Geffen Theater a week before the country like shut down. I barely got back to New York in time for lockdown to happen. It was a really hard time. It's still a really hard time. As of recording this, Broadway shows are constantly delaying, postponing because of outbreaks that are happening. It's still we are still in a pandemic, and anyone who thinks we're not in a pandemic is insane. But for me, it was tough. It really was tough. There was a long time where I was dependent on the government, and the assistance that they were giving. When that wasn't available, I was trying to like safely, paint people's apartments for cash or this or that. You just kind of like, you got to make it happen. You got to like pay rent and stuff. But some of the amazing things that happened was like, I got married during the pandemic. So
wow. Congratulations.
Thank you. And initially, we had set a date, and the pandemic kept getting farther and farther into that. So instead of like initially, like we had to cancel, but we didn't want like the pandemic to like totally, like take over our lives in that sense. So my wife and I, we got together. We went to a park that we love here on the river here in Astoria, Queens. We safely were able to have our immediate family there. My sister and her family, FaceTimed in because they couldn't travel across the country. And there was no officiant or anything like that, but like we created a ceremony and we made sure that like we were making the rules, and we were like, we wanted to get married today, so we're going to get married today. And it's our first wedding date. And then it's funny because like we had to have three in a sense. Like we had our kind of spiritual wedding that was on our terms. We made it, legal in the eyes of New York City by having a Zoom wedding, which you could do during the pandemic. So we had a legal Zoom wedding a few weeks later. And then it was like this weird time where, the infection rates were down, the vaccines, everyone was getting vaccinated. So we're like, well, oh my gosh, we can maybe have a celebration. So, this past year we had on our anniversary, we had like a kind of like a 1-year anniversary celebration wedding where we got to like, bring close people together and like, like say how much we love each other in front of them and have a celebration. And then all of a sudden, like all these like variants started happening. So it just kind of happened right at the right time. And now we're all seems like we're all headed towards another lockdown. So
yeah, but we're going to stay optimistic.
Yes.
Optimistic. You can't stop love. And I love that. You were able to celebrate love and have something for yourselves and continuing on that spirit. That's beautiful, my friend. And all the love and light and energy to hopefully we can change what's going on. We got to do it together. I think that's the most important thing that a lot of people aren't learning. In order to get up out of this, we got to do it together and come together as a community. So creatively, because we all, I'm an actor myself, but I'm the film TV front, but there's not a lot of stuff filming, not in the right area. I'm in DC. I think most stuff have moved overseas and or Canada. I know. I think it's somewhat in New York. I'm not entirely sure.
Come up to New York. There's some stuff. There
are some projects going on.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know how much I can talk about, but I've had the opportunity for a couple months now. I've been working on something for Apple TV that might come out in the middle of this year, but I don't know if I can talk about it. So,
whenever you can, we'll have you come back.
Yeah, absolutely.
So how are you transitioning as a creative? That is essentially my question. I can't, like, there's a bunch of projects I'm writing a lot more.
Nice.
Podcasting, which is helping with those creative elements.
Yeah.
How are you expressing your creative energy in a way?
I mean, honestly, it's been really, really difficult during the pandemic. I have a great friend who's also a half Filipino brother. His name is Jimmy Aquino, and he hosts a podcast called Comic News Insider. But he also started like kind of like a Zoom podcast during the pandemic, where he and one of his friends, my friend Heidi McDonald from this website called The Beat.
Met Heidi.
Great. So those two kind of started this weekly podcast called Comics Beat Insider, where they just kind of were talking about things that the other person hadn't seen. Like one week we were talking about Evil Dead 2, and another week we were talking about the Spider-Man movies. Another week we were talking about the Batman movies. Another week we were talking about K-pop. So that was kind of a great kind of thing to kind of have to look forward to kind of flex your creative juices and just like commune and talk with people and see people's faces.
Totally.
So that was really great. And then honestly, like, trying to find other ways, like, not knowing, like as an actor, I was like, what the heck is the what is the landscape going to be after we're out of this on the other end?
Yeah.
So actually, I went back to school, and I started taking classes to pursue massage therapy. And I was taking online lectures about anatomy and physiology, and Eastern philosophy and Eastern medicine versus Western biomedical medicine. Because I feel like massage also is the same kind of energy exchange in a sense that I get with live theater, where you're helping someone else.
Yeah.
You're exchanging energy with someone. And it's something that I'm still pursuing to this day. And I feel like, if ever I feel like retiring, I can always fall back on that. And it's kind of like fulfilling the idea of like a little bit in a medical field where, my mom will be happy that I'm
right.
kind of in a, so we'll see.
Oh, man, it's funny you brought that up. I was actually talking to a friend. We were going back and forth on Twitter. She was like, it's been so long since I've had a mani-pedi. I was like, you know what? I would do that too, because I'm all about self-care. And I was like, you know what? I haven't had that in forever. And it's been since the beginning of the pandemic. Me and my wife are all about massages.
Nice.
And I was just we were going back and forth about that. Stuff I haven't done since the pandemic started, because just been nervous, totally. That exchange, and I need a massage. I'm sorely missing that. So it's kind of wild just that you brought that up, because that's been on my mind all day because of that back and forth. I love that. Just building and just finding other ways to express creativity.
Yeah.
Keeping it going. I just noticed the time. I'm sorry. I've kept you a little bit longer than planned.
It's all good, man.
I get lost in these convos sometimes, my friend. So let me give you the last question out the gate, man. And Jon, as you continue to build, I like to always say, as we do this, right now is just a snapshot of what we talked about. You're still building. You're still doing your thing, no matter where your journey takes you. And I still want to celebrate it. So after this, even this conversation, anything you're doing, you're part of our family now. Please come back. Let us know. Let us give you some flowers. Let us show, our love to that and help you spread the word on that. So please come back through. But
I would love to. Much appreciation to you. This is, I've, watching your podcast and stuff, and watching it on YouTube and stuff, like, you guys are doing incredible work, and you're spotlighting some incredible people, and like, shout out and much love to you and your counterparts. Like, you're doing incredible work. So I'm honored to be, I was honored to be asked to be a part of it. So much love to you, my friend.
I appreciate that, brother. And I like I said, if not for the pandemic, or if I can head up to New York, which is, it's a little bit of a train ride here from New York. I have a lot of family up there. So
nice.
We'll have to connect. We'll have to get like some coffee or something.
Absolutely.
And if you ever come down here to DC, man, please hit me up. Let me take you out somewhere.
Absolutely.
But, big nerd question is how we like to end it. And I know you're a card carrying nerd. I'm gonna give you a little bit of leeway on this one. It's generally, the question is, if you have to give a TED talk on any particular nerd subject, what would it be? I kind of want that, but I also kind of want the top, because I think you and I are of kind of like same age range. I'm curious what your top 5 superheroes are in a way.
Oh,
as well, because of just some of the stuff you mentioned earlier, being like the anthropomorphic heroes as well. So whichever one you want to take, like,
oh man,
a nerd talk on something, or if you can give me like your top 3 or top 5 heroes, and or maybe artists. I don't know. I can nerd out with you, dude. Like, I think you and I are cut from the same cloth, man. And would love to learn all of that.
I think if I were to give a TED talk, I honestly think I feel like it would just be like me reenacting Jean-Claude Van Damme movies from the 80s.
Yes,
because
which is the top one for you?
Oh, dude. You know what? And only from the 80s, I would say, honestly, Double Impact is my favorite of the movies, because like the dude had to be 2 different versions of himself, and I was really impressed with like how well he was able to like manage those 2 different personalities.
Yeah.
But I mean, Lionheart, like blood sport, kickboxer, like,
Yeah.
I'm Universal
so excited that you said
Soldier.
Double Impact. You don't generally, all the other ones you listed is what people will come to before you get to Double Impact.
Right.
So the fact you brought a Double Impact is like, okay, man, I love that.
It's
I
so
love that
good.
answer.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't realize because he had to do 2 roles in there.
Yeah. It was not hard. I mean, it was
Rodman
not
was in that
easy.
one too, right? I think Rodman.
No. That's later on. That was Knockoff.
Okay.
Yeah. which also starred Rob Schneider, who's also half Filipino.
Yes. So awesome. Awesome.
But as far as like, if you want to go to the other question, oh man, so top 5.
They don't exactly have to be top 5. What are coming to your head like right now out the gate?
Well,
so it does have to be in a particular order.
Multiple Man from the X-Men or X Factor, depending on who you're talking to.
Okay.
So Multiple Man, Nightcrawler is like my all-time favorite. I mean, Spider-Man, Batman are like my obvious ones.
Yeah.
I've actually really started recently appreciating Superman more. Like, because like, like when people are like really into Batman, they're like, oh, Superman sucks. But you're like, there's a lot to love about Superman, So
favorite cinematic Superman.
Oh, I mean, cinematic as like all like as in like TV too.
All of them, yeah. If you had to pick one out of,
damn. I mean, Christopher Reeves. It's got to be Chris. It's got to be Chris Reeves.
You're a kid from the 80s. Respect to Henry Cavill.
Totally.
And I think it was amazing. But and I think you've probably seen a lot of memes too. He wasn't blessed with the right scripts. They didn't.
Amen to that. Yes.
They didn't do him right.
100%. Have you checked?
Casting, but they didn't do him good.
Have you checked out the new TV show on CW?
A little bit here and there.
I think that show writes Superman really well because it's a mixture of like godlike badass, and Boy Scout and everything in between. So
I saw the first couple of episodes, and then I saw. Actually, it's funny enough. It was either today or yesterday. Superman. I saw the trailer, a new ad, I guess, for the new season or something coming up. But I was kind of just surprised. It just made me think like, if it came out during the 90s or the 80s, it would have just been a lot bigger than it's really. It feels somewhat downplayed. I don't know if it's because it's the CW, it's a smaller network, but that would be a huge NBC show, or if it was on like the bigger 4, or
totally
networks, right?
I mean, it would be where Lois and Clark was.
Yeah, and it's just kind of surprising that and even the rollout, if Batman or Superman, the top 3 were like out there would have been, just more publicity, just more push, and it just feels that it doesn't. It's not getting that. But I've been hearing the positive, like you're saying, that it is a good show. And I caught the first couple of episodes in the first season. But and decent enough actor too. I think he's doing a good job. And just I think a problem for a lot of people is that the kids. It's about the kids. Really, it's more of a family thing. It's a older Superman, and I don't know if people. I guess some populists aren't ready for that. They still want the classic.
Well, they're afraid that they don't want their superheroes to grow up. They don't want them to have kids and have like real problems and stuff.
Yeah. But I just, if they want that, you can get the other stuff. You can check out, to each their own. And I think it's beautiful. And I'm anxious to check it out and find time. Really, it's all about time. Yeah, when do we have time in our lives and everything? John, I could nerd out, talk all day with you, man.
Hells yeah.
Rest of this night. I would love for you to come through again. Anytime you have the open invitation. If I'm ever in your area, I'd love to link up. And if you come through here. So for the fans that are now, my fans that are watching this and want to follow everything you're doing, let me know your socials that I can send them to. I'm also going to have it on the screen and in the description below how they can check out Jon Hoche.
Yeah, absolutely. You really can just like Twitter and Instagram are really kind of where I live in the social media world. And it's just at JONHOCHE.
There you go. Check out my man, Jon. Give him all the love. Give him all the follows. He's got a King Kong size heart. And I can't wait to just celebrate you even more. And even if it is bringing it just down to massaging, I could use A real good massage, brother.
Well, when I graduate, man, you're the first on the list there.
My man, this has been truly a pleasure. Salamat po, kabayan, Kuya Jon in the house. Give him all the love, give him all the follows. For your boy Kuya P, it's the legend Kuya P on Twitter, TikTok, and IG. Follow me here at the NRW and at Release Wednesday, where nerds rule the world. Until our next ShoPowSho. Salamat po, mahal kita. We're out of here. All right.
Hey, what's up, guys? My name is Jon Hoche, and I'm going to be on the ShoPowSho talking to Kuya P about Broadway, King Kong, geek stuff, my life, puppetry, acting, everything in between. So check it out. What does my Filipino heritage mean to me? Hey, guys, what's going on? My name is Jon Hoche, and my Filipino heritage means to me means family, means foundation, means love, means history. It's the building blocks that made me who I am today, and I'm here to celebrate it, and I'm here to spread the love and joy and everything that it is. Much love.